I guess it's fun. It's interesting to see how the stoves are made and how they work. And we learned a lot how the rocket stoves are so efficient. And then just like working with the people who normally work there and kind of see a little bit of an insight into like some jobs that people have there was really interesting for me. And also it was fun just like spreading the cement and carrying them around. We got caught in a few I guess thunderstorms stuff, and it was really cool just to be out in that. For me anyway, I just really thought it was very rewarding to be there and to build the stoves with everybody.
Aaron, do you have anything to say about locals? Your experience with them?
Well, they seem to be very interested in getting the stoves when we gave them away, and also they let us into their houses before we were even giving the stoves, and that was very kind of them. And I don't think that would be as much of a thing here. Yeah.
Did you guys go with on a delivery? I think you did, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron, turn on your video.
Can you talk a little bit about what happened when you and Nathan went on the delivery? What was that like?
Well, it was just, I guess it was really interesting to see the kind of like, I don't know, like poverty that people are living in. That sounds bad.
Zaiya, do you have anything to say about that? About people down there? How were you treated?
We were treated very kindly, and it was kind of ironic that some people in this country don't exactly view them as human themselves, or that they're perfectly fine the way they are, but like in the living situation they're in. But they're really kind, and they don't really expect much from you. But yeah, like Aaron said, they welcome you into their homes, and they just seem like very interesting people.
All right.
That's it.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mateo and Zaiya and Aaron. It was nice. Thank you, Aaron, for taking a break from making your snack. I'm glad you could join us. And Forrest, so Andrea and Zaiya, Mateo, Forrest, if you can stay, let's do some questions. We also have Mark Kalmar is on this call, and he went on a trip. Lorena's daughter, Eliza, Tom Worth's daughter. We've had quite a number. I think is Jim Swinyard on the call. He's also been down there. Carol Lee Woodstock was on our trip. Claudia Evans has been on the trip. So this is actually something that has, it seems that it has some momentum with our club, and right. There's a interest in keeping this going with having collective action. Mark Kalmar, as president, really initiated our club participation and wrote our district grant to support the efforts of StoveTeam. And so I guess this is just a chance for especially anyone who's been thinking they might want to go to Guatemala or Nicaragua and ask questions about the trip, or maybe they're interested in taking a grandchild or a child and have some questions for Forrest or Andrea or Mark or others. Got any questions?
I have a question, probably for Forrest or anybody that's been on a trip.
Sure.
Is there ever been rejection from a recipient who is just so used to cooking over an open fire that they just can't accommodate this? Has that ever happened?
Not explicitly, sort of, I think, in the way you're imagining, where we're bringing the stove to their home and they say, I don't want it. I would imagine, what I know happens relatively often is that people will accept the stove, use it, maybe be confused by it because they're not properly trained, and then go back to using the open fire. Mm-hmm. Or maybe because, the cooking surface is only this big, but you can kind of spread out an open fire and cook a bunch of different things over it. So one of the things that we've been working on doing, making sure that our factory partners are doing, is providing adequate education on why the stove is important in the first place to stove recipients, and also proper care and maintenance and use of the stove. One thing that people often do is they take out the portolania, which is a piece of metal that fits in the hole where you put the wood in, so that air can come in underneath the wood. And it's an important part of the stove design, but people take that out and then jam as much wood in there as they can. And so the stove doesn't work as well if you do that. So we're now working with a design where the portolania is fixed in place. So we are taking steps to make sure that people are able to use the stoves and wanting to use the stoves and knowing why it's important. But to my knowledge, no one has said, I don't want the stove. But there are cases where people stop using them.
Sure. Okay. Thanks.
Sure.
What is the age group that you would suggest as far as younger individuals?
Well, let's see. Who was the youngest person we had on the October trip?
I think it was
Nate
it was Zach.
from
Oh, Zach. Yeah, Zach was
from
12.
Idaho.
Tiffany, I didn't catch that. What did you say?
It was Zach from Idaho.
Oh, yeah.
Who was 12, who was the most fluent of everyone and was our trip interpreter.
Yeah. All the kids did so well on this trip. We had kids from 12 through 17, I think, years old. We had 5 kids on the trip in October out of a total of 18 volunteers, and they all did fantastically well. I would say, to answer your question, it depends on the kid, but I would expect that pretty much any 10-year-old would thrive on one of these trips. They're very structured, and there's really no time when, at least I would hope, any of the volunteers were like, what are we doing right now? We have no idea what's going on. We really did our best to structure every minute what we're doing. So I think any kid can thrive with that. I'd say 10 is a safe age, safe minimum age.
One more question. Any more questions for Forrest? It's a really fascinating, fascinating challenge. Z, I appreciate your question, because one of the things that we saw was people have normal human nature across all cultures, in the sense that when they're given something, they'll use it, but that doesn't mean they're going to stop doing something, using the means and the technology that they have. And so it sort of is, in my mind, it was sort of like families that become from a 1-car family to a 2-car family. So they get the stove, which helps them provide, a smoke-free environment, or use less wood, or less dangerous for the children. But then they also use the open fire because they get to use both, which is like so much more, efficient in a certain way to have 2 stoves. I think that there's so many fascinating aspects to how to help adopt new technologies, even as we in our own culture look at how can we change our behaviors. It's sort of the same thing, I have teenagers that are now driving. I now have more cars to my house. It's the same kind of challenge, even though it's at such a different end of the economic spectrum.
Yeah, so, very true. We all
have to do our part. Thank you, Forrest, for being here. Eric.
I have a question. I don't know if I need to raise my hand or not, but anyway. Hey, my question is, if you've got families that are large families, do you guys in any cases give multiple stoves to try to help accommodate that family?
That's a great question. What we do, I don't know of a case where we have given multiple stoves to a family, but every one of our factory partners offers multiple stove designs, where multiple models, where the Ecosina, the one that we designed, is actually the smallest. All the other ones are, up to at least twice as big in terms of the cooking surface. They have their own legs, and they all have chimneys. They cost more like $150 or $200, but they can cook for many more people at once. One of the things that you have to know is that in most of these cases, there's a woman in almost every case in the family who is cooking all day long. in the home. So it's not all going to get cooked at once. It's an ongoing process throughout the entire day. But yeah, we want to offer multiple stove models. But of course, most families, I mean, we get fewer stoves to people the more we focus on the bigger stoves. So we try to really figure out where we can do the best work. But it's a great question.
Thank you very much.